in here to try to resolve the situation. And for me, that's where if 6 months our books were fixed, that would be, I would do a dance. I think that would be wonderful. I don't know where.
I think we'd all be doing a dance. I think that Plan A and Plan B has its own repercussions for the town. We just passed an override last year, and now we need to pass another one to, for a structural deficit, which was, that was very difficult to get the last override passed, and now we're asking them to do it again, and there's still some misinformation, and that I would hope that through strong leadership, that whichever way it goes, that it's more, that we just begin that process of really working together, public, board, administrator, just much more, all the departments, they do a good job of that anyway, but just really being, to start that, like I said, to definitely do that dance in the end, but it's painful to be, it's taxpayer money. It's painful to sit here, and it's painful to watch them.
Anything from?
Go ahead.
Yeah, short-term goal, the financial situation is certainly the biggest thing, getting the books back in order. Then a little bit further, long-term would be the more cohesiveness that Diane was speaking of, kind of getting away from the political sides and working as a whole. And then future, long-term, year, 2 years, to be able to rebuild that cushion so that we can make capital investments, that we can execute a capital plan, that we have reserves in the bank so that if something drastic does happen, we are able to react to it and be reactive versus, or be proactive versus reactive.
I see this as the first step toward good government. I've been on this board for a long time, and within 6 months, I knew that there was something wrong with town government. Couldn't quite pinpoint it, didn't quite know what was going on. It takes a while to figure that out. This position, town administrator, this would be the first town administrator this town has had. And this is the step that is vital to pull all the other pieces together. It's kind of like Ben looking for the Holy Grail.
Right.
And, I was very close. Some good things have really been happening in the town.
Right.
Hiring an interim town administrator, getting our financial team back together, so that we're all working and the momentum is there. Our fire chief is working on upgrading service to advanced life support versus basic life support. And all that comes to a screeching halt when Plan B comes around. So I see a lot of opportunity. I see reasons to be optimistic. I think the main reason to be optimistic is the town administrator position.
Well, one thing I can assure you, I've been there, I've been through it. In 6 months, we'll have a balanced budget. We'll have all the documents. Everybody will be able to walk in and know exactly what's in their account by the penny. Because I have that background. I know what the budget is. I did the whole budget myself. I didn't have a counseling or nothing. I sat down and went through every single penny and figure out how to balance it out. And that's one thing that I bring. And I bring the experience of being under the thumb of DOR. You can check with my person, Joe Boudreau, who took care of me during the period of time. One thing I've learned that the only way to do it is go right to the heart of it, tear it down and restructure it, put it together so it doesn't break again. That's one thing I can do, that I know, because I've been there.
If there's nothing else, I'd like to thank you very much for coming in today. We appreciate it very much. Sure.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
And we will be in contact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Boudreau is here.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's up for 7:50.
Oh, he is. We are a little ahead of schedule, but our next candidate is here, so we will begin with Stephen Boudreau. Thank you very much. I'd like to come and have a seat.
Mr. Chairman, do I get points for coming early?
Thank you very much. And there's a copy of the description.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's you?
So thank you very much for coming in today
Thank you
to
for
speak with
inviting
us. We have 10 questions that we will ask you. It's the same 10 questions are being asked of all the candidates by the same select men. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to share any additional information that you would like or to ask us any questions that you have.
Very well.
Okay. So our first question is for select. Our first question is from Selectman Morrison.
Welcome. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want this job.
It's the work that I love to do. I've been involved in local government for most of my adult life, in either an elected capacity as a member of a select board, my hometown, planning board, served on the finance committee, cable television advisory committee, capital programming committee. My first venture into local government was setting up the microphones and the screens and the overhead projectors for town meetings, because I was trained originally as a audiovisual specialist. And I fell in love with local government when I was sitting there, became more involved with it in a community not too far from here, exit 32 off 495 in Westford, Massachusetts. I'm one of 5 children, the oldest. My mother met this soldier from Fort Devens, and they got married and started a family in Westford, Massachusetts. And if you drive down Route 110, at the Westford Littleton line, you'll find an ice cream stand called Kimball's. And I was that far from being a Kimball when my mother was dating. She went for the soldier instead of the ice cream farmer. And that's the tale of my life. And that's okay. The reason why I want this job is because you asked me to come here, share with you my experiences. It's the work that I love to do. It's who I am as a person. I feel that I'm experienced, accomplished. I love to serve the communities in which I am asked to perform public service and do so in a way that'll make them better from me having been there.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, are you a certified procurement?
I was, but I am in that capacity that I serve now, but yes, I'd have to go back to get some courses to be certified MCCC PO, but I was at one time. But I still have to perform that function whether I'm certified or not.
Good. Awesome. Selectwoman Farrell has our next question.
Mine is a 2-part question, and the first part is, what are 3 positive things that your last boss would say about you?
So 3 positive things: he shows up early, he gets the work done, and he knows what he's talking about. And I have experience.
And what is 1 negative thing that your last boss would say about you?
He tries to do too much, too quickly.
How many hours on average do you put into the job?
Whatever it takes, basically 40 plus. But there are other times beyond that where you have to attend night meetings, not just with the Board of Selectmen, but with the Finance Committee, a town meeting, like that. So it depends on what the workload is and what's required. You have to be there, you have to be there.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Selectwoman Haley Brooks.
Hi.
Hi.
If you were interviewing someone for this position, what traits would you look for?
First and foremost, experience. You have to know what you're doing on day one. It's brain surgery, so you better be hiring a brain surgeon. You're not hiring somebody who doesn't know anything, because you get into a lot of trouble. So they better have experience.
Anything else?
Integrity. They have to know what's right and what's wrong, and always tell the Board of Selectmen what the right thing to do is, and then let them make the decision, because it is their town, it's their money, and it's their decision.
Okay. The next question is, two parts too. What did you like least about your last job?
About my last job, that I wasn't able to continue on in that capacity. I thought I was doing a good job. I was the first in the last professional position I held as a town manager. I was their first town manager. I was told at 10 o'clock at night after the polls closed that the charter had passed, and I was promoted from town administrator to town manager. And when you become the first person, you need to make changes and enact the requirements of the charter as the townspeople have voted. So that was the ability not to continue on in the position was painful, but those things happen.
Okay. And why are you leaving your present job?
Because to be honest with you, you guys pay better.
Okay.
We don't hear that too often.
Say it again.
You will hopefully be paying me better.
Thank you for that honesty. Thank you.
Our next question is from Selectman Morrison.
Okay, please highlight those aspects of your background, education and experience that you feel have prepared you for the position of town administrator in Templeton, and what makes you the right candidate for the job.
I think the most important aspect of my resume is the experience that I have, the time and the position that I've held as a public professional administrator, plus the education that I have. At age 41, I went back into the dormitories and completed my undergraduate degree in public management at Plymouth State College, which is now Plymouth State University, and so I have the education to do the work, and the experience and the knowledge to understand what the issues are, the financial issues, the environmental issues, the various issues that communities like Templeton have to face the day-to-day. I know how to survive, I know how to skin the cat, I know how to make things work, anticipation of problems coming down the road, of issues that you need to face. Sort of like that character on Lost in Space there, that robot fellow that threw his arms up, said, "Warning, we're Robinson, warning," malfunction, yeah. And if you've been in the business as long as I have, you kind of know what's going to come up next based upon the cycles of that towns go through. If you were a town on an interstate highway that was growing from 15,000 to 20,000 over a 5-year period, you learn very quickly, if you serve on the Board of Selectmen and on the planning board, that you should have had a master plan that was updated and implemented so that you could accommodate new growth. Because you have to build lots of schools, because you make your town a very attractive place to live and to work, and people buy homes there, and they want the services. So as the population grows, as the demands for services go up, you kind of find out through experience, hard experience, what you should have done. And so I know the things that I would need to know. It's not that I would know everything. I would rely on the folks that I would have to learn from in the time that it takes, but I have a very quick learning curve and get up to speed really quickly. And if I don't know, I pick up the phone and I call a member of the hood, member of the brother and sisterhood, and I say, what have you done about this issue in your town? Who should I call? Who's the expert? If it's a financial issue, who do I get? If it's an environmental issue, who do I call? You know, so that's what experience brings to the table, is that problem-solving aspect.
And how are you being the public face? I mean, any issues with the media? Have you had to, you know, provide that role or been in
Sure.
that role, so quoted in the paper and,
Yep.
you know, those kinds of things?
Doing press releases, doing interviews with radio stations or with the news media, one-on-one. I can present the facts and the positions of the board. I have no problem speaking at town meeting, making a presentation, making a sales pitch on a capital project that needs to be done successfully. My last stint in my last professional position, there was 40 articles on the warrant and a $25 million budget, and it passed unanimously at town meeting within an hour and a half. And then unfortunately, I was going down the road, but I stood up and made the pitch professionally, and town still functioned.
Our next question is from Selectwoman Julie Farrell.
Can I put the glasses on this side? Here we go. There is increasingly greater public expectation that municipalities should be held publicly accountable. How would you respond to public demands for greater accountability? And how would you deal with an angry member of the public who is upset with the municipality?
I think the best thing that you can do is provide them the information that they seek. Put the minutes and the meetings of cable. I've seen 2 episodes of the Templeton Board of Selectmen on YouTube. I saw the meeting of April 22nd, the last meeting, and the meeting of April 9th, and I watched your financial presentation made by the interim town administrator on that. So I'm a great fan of that. Putting whatever information out there that you can to the public so they get the information, and then greeting a member of the public to somebody who pays the bills with respect and dignity and saying, how can I help you? When I pick up the phone in the community that I work at now, I always say, good morning, town of, this is Stephen Boudreau, how can I help you? And I think all employees should do that, whether they work in the assessors department or the water department or the light department, and engage with the public. If the people are mad about something, try to find out what the problem is and try to refer them to a solution. You're not going to be able to solve all of their problems, but at least engage them in a respectful conversation. In my experience in working in this job, 95% of the people that I deal with in communities only want to come in, pay their taxes, pick up their garbage bags, get their permits for a yard sale, those types of things. And there's only 5% out there that like to stir the pot and cause problems. I know how to handle those folks too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have our next question. The Board of Selectmen is ultimately responsible to its taxpayers for the financial position of the municipality. Understanding financial information and making sound financial decisions can be difficult without financial training or background. However, it is the administrator's responsibility to ensure appropriate reporting is in place to facilitate sound decision-making. Tell us, as an administrator, what financial information would you report on to the Board of Selectmen? How frequently would you report, and how would you present the information in an understandable way so that the board has the relevant facts to make sound financial decisions?
Well, first of all, on a monthly basis, or at least on a bi-weekly basis, the report from the town accountant, the expenditure report that tracks the expenses and salaries from each of the departments are distributed to each of the departments, and I would distribute them also to the selectmen so that you could get an idea of what's happening in terms of the finances. The warrants need to be signed by the selectmen on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, how they do it here. In my community I work in now, they do it every 2 weeks. And that's another financial form. If something came up that was of particular concern, I would email the board immediately with the news about something financial that they needed to know about. But especially the setting of the tax rate, you have to work with the assessors to make sure that you are ready to hear their report. They actually come in and classify the tax rate. That's another thing that you do work with them on. But the various financial things, the tax collector collects the taxes, the assessors assess the property and work with you to set the tax rate. The selectmen hold the classification hearing. After the classification hearing is set, and we work with the Department of Revenue to set the tax rate in the town. But you get the financial information that you need to know. But you're not all the experts. Selectmen aren't expected to know all those things. So if it's a tax question, you ask the tax collector. You bring them in. If it's an assessing question, you bring in the assessors so they can answer the question. If it's a particular account that you need to go over and analyze, you might want to bring in the town accountant. The gentleman that you had here at the last meeting that is kind of doing the financial troubleshooting, he seems to have a pretty good idea of how things work in communities like Templeton and other communities that he served in. And you hire good people, incompetent people, and you tell them what you expect of them and when you expect of them to get that information, and you provide the information to the board as best you can. But, I mean, if a select person is getting badgered by a taxpayer about a particular issue, why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that, then refer them back to me, and I'll do my best to answer their question or get the information that they need. But you folks are part-time select people, and you don't work full-time in it. You may know a lot about the running of the town, but you're not experts that do it for a living. You do it on a part-time basis, and you need the support and help as best you can. So I would provide that with the department head, the financial folks, to provide that information to those folks.
Great, thank you very much. The next question is, how would you describe yourself and your management style? How would you produce a working environment that supports maximum productivity? Please relate your response to your working experience.
I'm not the fire chief. I'm not the highway superintendent. I'm not the principal assessor. I'm not the tax collector. I'm not the town accountant. But I know for the most part, in working in this environment for the last 20 plus years, what those folks do and how they do it and how things should really work and run. I would let them run their departments as they see fit in a business-like, professional manner where they're spending the taxpayers' dollars as if it was their own. You know, they want the best deal for the taxpayers that they can get. They want to be answerable and accountable to them. And so I would set up an environment where I tell them what I expect, when I expect it, and tell them that anything less than that is unacceptable. There shouldn't be any waste, fraud, abuse, malfeasance, misfeasance, or any of those other feasances that could occur. Yeah. And so, you know, you set an example for them and say, look, this needs to be done at this date. I'll give you a good example. We have a part-time town accountant in the community that I work in. This was my beginning of my second fiscal year, and it took till the end of a number of months after the fiscal year closed last year before free cash was certified. I says, come on, it's a $3.5 million budget. No water, no sewer. What's the holdup? Well, this year, after the budget closed, I was on the phone and the email to her every week to find out what the status of that was. If it wasn't her fault, and it was DOR's fault in getting the tax rate certified or the free cash certified, I made phone calls. I was a pest. And as a result, we got free cash certified to a level of $180,000, which is a big chunk of change in a $3.5 million budget. And it's available for use for the taxpayer. So that's what you get for being a pest sometimes. That's my expectation. She followed through on it this time.
So it sounds like you're not afraid to micromanage when necessary.
I don't want to micromanage, but I want to, again, put my expectations forward and say, we need to get this done. And if it's not a good answer from him or her as why it's getting done, then I go after him in a professional way.
Right.
I don't hire and fire them, you folks do that. But I can use my powers of persuasion to get them to get the job done.
Thank you very much. Our next question is from Selectwoman Farrell.
What has been the most difficult management situation that you've had to handle in the last few years, and how did you handle it?
A corrupt police officer. A police officer who lied to his police chief. That we had to remove, not from his police position, but from another position within the department that he held. And so I made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And he resigned from the position after we held him accountable for his actions.
Was it civil service?
Yes,
We don't have civil service here.
God bless you. Not that civil service is too terrible, it's just can be cumbersome, but I've been to a few civil service hearings in Boston in my lifetime and had the microphones shoved in my face from Channel 5, and that wasn't a pleasant experience, but I survived.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our last question is from Selectwoman Haley Brooks.
Have you ever been in a leadership role where major change is taking place in the organization? And how did you approach your part in it? And what are some of the key considerations in successfully introducing that change?
When I was transitioned from town administrator to town manager, that was the leadership position I had to take on. And so we had to transition from the Board of Selectmen being the day-to-day operations, being involved in the day-to-day operations, to the town manager doing that. And so I brought in all of the department heads, we reviewed the charter, and told them what my expectations were for the charter and for the positions that they held within the new charter there, and led them to, implement the requirements of the charter. It took a little longer than I anticipated, but you did it slowly, you did it gradually, and you do it successfully that way. Abrupt change is not good. But I made it happen.
Thank you.
And that was our last question. Do you have any questions for us?
When do you expect to make a decision?
We have one interview on Thursday, and that will be our final interview, so we will begin that next week, probably.
So we
Getting
have,
together
are we
to-
down to 3 now?
We're down to 4.
4 candidates?
4 candidates, yep,
Okay.
all together. And I would imagine that next week we will start looking at the next step in the process.
Next week is busy. We have an election on Monday,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then we have a
Yeah,
meeting.
town meetings coming
Town
up.
classification here
Yeah.
on Tuesday.
I guess my last question is, why was I picked to come and sit before this board?
Well, we actually didn't pick you, which is not a negative thing. We had a committee of citizens that were appointed by us to do the first leg in the process. So
Oh, okay.
my understanding of the 3 citizens at large sat down, went through, we received, how many, 20?
Two.
Yeah, 20 resumes and applications for the position, and the 3 members sat down and saw whose qualifications best matched up with the job description, and your resume was on the short list that resulted from
I saw that
process.
episode of the cable program. Fellow-
Yeah, you already know the players then, yeah. So that is why you were selected, your
Thank you very much
qualification,
for your
sure.
time.
Sure, thank you very much for coming in.
Coming.
Yeah, is there anything else? Also? If not, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
you coming in.
Have a good
You
meeting.
too.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Take care. Good luck with your search.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I was informed that it will